Hi everyone, I just wanted to jump on and make a video about hiking as a solo female. I have seen this topic talked about all over the place on Facebook groups, forums. What do I do as a lone female hiker? Is it dangerous? People are saying these things to me. I'm reading this, I'm thinking that. So as a female who has hiked solo a few times, I wanted to give my opinions and experiences and just have a talk around the subject really. It's something that's been on my mind for a little while, and it's been interesting to observe the things that people say, because it tends to be the same things that are repeated over and over and over again. The same sort of things come up all the time. It's one of those topics that I want it more to be a discussion, and it's kind of hard to navigate because I don't ever want people to feel like I'm downplaying certain things like women's safety, because I would never do that, and there's no denying certain things that happen to women all around the world disproportionately than what happened to men. So people have a right to be concerned and to be worried about things, but I do also see quite a lot of patronising things said online. As I've said before, I have hiked solo a few times now, and the number one worry is, of course, safety on trail. I'm going to break safety down into two basic categories. Being someone who lives in the UK and has always lived in the UK, I found that the animal aspect was the scariest potential part of going on a through hike, because I have never been in a situation where an animal could potentially hurt me, harm me, kill me in the worst circumstances, just because I just don't live in a country where there are dangerous animals like that. I don't even think we have snakes or bugs or anything like that that could harm me. Well, I know now, since I was on the Appalachian Trail and got stung and went into anaphylactic shock, that technically wasps are harmful to me. But I mean, we don't have any animals that could severely harm you on the face of, the face of things. We don't have mountain lions, we don't have bears, we don't have wolves, we don't have coyotes, we don't have rattlesnakes, we don't have scorpions, none of these sort of things. So animals was really, and nature was the most worrying thing for me. I remember being so scared about bears before I hiked the Appalachian Trail. In fact, I got myself so worked up about them watching videos and things, and to be honest, I mainly watch videos about grizzlies that aren't even out that way anyway. I think I was just torturing myself with the worst possible case scenario. So my advice for this is, be aware of the animals and the flowers and the fauna and the insects that are native to the place that you're going and you're going to be hiking. Like, it's really, really important that you, as with anything, that you're prepared and smart and knowledgeable about things that could happen to you and what to do in a circumstance where the worst case scenario happens, or the semi-worst case scenario happens. So you get bitten by a venomous snake, or you get stung by a venomous scorpion. Like, what do you do in those scenarios? Make sure you know them inside out. Make sure you're prepared. That's, I mean, it's quite obvious, isn't it? But that's as much as you can do. You can't say that these things will never happen, although they're very unlikely, but you prepare. Another thing is to get the best, most comprehensive travel insurance that you can possibly get, so that you can have people hike up to you if you need to. You can be airlifted if you need to. You can be repatriated if you need to. Is that the death one? We don't want to talk about the death one. Is repatriated when you die? I meant you can be flown back if you're ill and you need to be treated at home. I meant to be not worrying people. Yeah, I mean, if you need to be flown home, make sure that's covered in your insurance. So, you know, you've prepared for things like that. You've looked up what the wild animals are. You know, you don't want to go somewhere and be like, oh, they've got wolves here. Oh, cool. But you don't want to be surprised. You want to know, oh, you know, they've got wolves there, or they've got bears there, and what kind of bear they are. Are they brown? Are they black? Just their general temperament, the way that you might end up spooking one by accident, or, you know, just their general behavior. Just you want to know as much as possible. And yeah, what to do in certain situations that you might find yourself in. Okay, so we've covered the nature and wildlife aspect of what you might be worried about going on a solo hike female. And really the answer to that is be as knowledgeable as possible, because you're on your own. You have your knowledge to rely on. You can't rely on anyone else jumping to your aid, or someone else going, oh, I actually know the answer to that, so don't worry that you don't know. You need to know. Don't belittle yourself or underestimate the things that you can become knowledgeable about. Just seek as much information as possible, so that, you know, when you go into an exam and you're like, I've got this one, like I will nail this exam. Go into it like that. Don't go into it where you're going into the exam thinking, I mean, as long as these topics come up, I'll be okay, but if they don't, then I'm screwed. Go into it the former, not the latter. So yeah, moving on to the other thing that people tend to generally worry about, and the topics that I've seen people ask about, is should you be worried about other people, and how do I protect myself? Okay, so first of all, I just want to start off with, you get bizarre people everywhere in all walks of life, absolutely crawling with bizarre people, this planet thing. You have to trust your gut. You have to trust your gut. You have to trust yourself. If someone feels off, if someone's giving you bad vibes, if someone says something that makes you uncomfortable, you've got to just trust your gut with this, and you've got to leave the scenario somehow. You can't worry about being polite. I know it's difficult because women are, generally speaking, taught to be very polite and to care about other people's feelings and not to upset people, and you don't want to appear rude, because being rude as a woman is like super rude. But if you have an off feeling about anyone, I'm not saying like, oh fuck you, but just remove yourself from the situation. For example, if you were settling down somewhere to camp and you were with one other person, you weren't with them, but they'd come to settle down to camp in the same area as you, and you were speaking to them and you thought, I really don't like you. You don't offer them an explanation. You don't owe them an explanation. All they need to, I mean, they don't need to know anything. You just can leave. Oh, I don't know. I don't really like this area. I don't think I'm gonna stay here tonight. Or just wait till they're doing something else and just hike on and camp somewhere else. You know, that's just an example. If you meet someone who, say you're on a trail and you're in a little bubble and you keep coming across them and across them and across them over and over again, you've got to weigh up the pros and cons of, you know, holding on to that pride and just thinking, why should I let someone bother me into changing what I'm doing? And I really get that, because it pisses me off so much that I should even have to think about adapting my behaviours because other people can't seem to find it in them to behave properly. But unfortunately there are strange people, dangerous people. So I would rather swallow my pride and slightly adapt what I'm doing, or think, okay, I'll hold back in this town for like 3 days and then they're 3 days ahead. Or I was going to take a 0, but I seem to keep bumping into them, so I'm just going to get ahead a day, you know. I'd rather swallow my pride and do that than think, screw this and stay around an uncomfortable situation, which is going to make me enjoy myself less anyway. Basically, in an ideal world, people wouldn't be balls to the wall, disturbing and bizarre, but unfortunately we don't live in that world. So we have to calculate the risk versus the reward, or just calculate the risk. Maybe there isn't a reward, just calculate the risk and make sure that you're taking the best precautions for yourself based on how you feel. It doesn't matter if someone else doesn't, you know, if you ask, oh, what do you think about so and so, and someone doesn't get that vibe, that doesn't matter. Don't listen to what other people say. Listen to what you think and you think is best for you. And that's what you have to remember as well. You have to be able to trust yourself. Like, you're a grown ass woman who can make decisions for herself. All of that being said, I do have to say that I really have not come across a disproportionate amount of unusual characters hiking in the woods or on mountains or whatever than in real life. And nothing, you know, so far I've experienced to be sinister. Sometimes things are a bit like, you've given me the ick a bit, or an off feeling, or you're a bit weird, but nothing that's been, you know, entirely sinister or made me feel super unsafe. And to be honest, I've actually found that the camaraderie of being in a hiking community and like working towards a collective goal and going through the same experiences has actually given me a nicer feeling of togetherness than I get in the real world in general. So even though it puts me out of my comfort zone, it does make me worry at times. For me, it feels like I actually get more out of it than in the real world. People like share things more, they share stories, they really listen to each other. People share food, people share equipment, people share tips. So really the hiking community has offered me more pleasant people than the real world offers me, and has in no way had a disproportionate amount of icky, creepy people. This is something that I see almost non-stop asked in a lot of women's groups, talking about going on solo hikes, even if it's an overnight hike. What if my family or my other half are so worried about me that they don't want me to go? First of all, you're a grown woman, not a child, and you do not need anyone's permission or validation to do something that is important to you, okay? I have to go into it from this point of view because it highlights the kind of ridiculousness of it. Would you tell your father, or would you tell your brother, or would you tell your uncle, or would you tell your husband that they can't go somewhere because it's too dangerous for them? As long as they were fit and healthy and you weren't worried about, you know, some kind of crazy health issue that they have overcoming them as they were doing it because it's physically exerting. I mean, literally just their safety. No, you wouldn't do it? Yeah, because it's patronising and it shows a lack of respect for their knowledge, their autonomy, and their ability to judge situations and look after themselves. To tell someone that they cannot do something really, in my opinion, says to me that you don't trust that they're able to do that. You don't trust that they have the ability to do that. That to me is disrespectful. And that would be how I would feel if someone told me that I can't hike because, you know, well, how do you feel about being a girl on your own? I would feel really patronised and quite underestimated, actually, because I believe that I can look after myself very well. Now, that being said, and this is where, you know, it gets into a bit more of a, I don't want to just say everyone can do, you know, all women can do exactly the same things as men, and you know, you need to not be worried about anything and just shut up and get on with it, because I do want to recognize that a disproportionate amount of women are harmed or traumatized or worse, usually by men, than men are. So there is a ground, you know, there's a grounds to worry, and I don't want to take away from that, and I don't want to belittle that. But I just want to say that when these people in your life are saying, well, what if, you know, I'm not worried about you, I'm worried about other people. And while that's true, something could happen anywhere in the world, anywhere that you are, and you can't live your life around that. Women that are harmed are most likely to be harmed by family members, intimate partners, or friends and people that they know. So statistically, you're actually more likely to be hurt by the very people who are trying to dissuade you from doing something that you want to do. So you can tell them that. Just sock them with it next time they're trying to project their fears onto you, or they're trying to control you using, you know, emotional blackmail. Again, it's a risk versus reward. You weigh up the cost, you weigh up the possibilities, and you make a decision as a grown woman on whether you think something that you're very passionate about is worth doing. And if you feel like something that you're very passionate about is worth doing, regardless of the risks, regardless of the dangers that really exist anywhere in the world, then you effing go for it, okay? Go for it. You do it for yourself, because I promise you that you will feel such a sense of achievement doing something solo like this that you possibly have not felt in many other aspects of your life. What do I do, again on forums, if I have a partner who says that other men will want to pick me up on the trail? I feel like, you know, women who ask this question already know the answer to it. I think they just want people to tell them straight, but then maybe bat that back because they're not quite ready for the answer. The answer to that question is that someone who's very controlling and very insecure, and probably someone that you shouldn't even be in a relationship with in the first place unless they're trying to work on those insecurities. But if they're trying to still control you with those insecurities, then yeah, that's probably someone that you shouldn't be with at all. That shouldn't stop you going on the trail. I mean, men are gonna try and pick you up anywhere in the world. Yeah, you get people on the trail who maybe like trying to flirt with you or whatever, but if your partner trusts you, they trust you, and I don't see why. I don't really want to get into like making justifications, because you shouldn't have to justify it at all, but I really don't see why, if anywhere in the world that men were going to try and pick you up, they would be doing it on a stinky ass trail more than in your everyday life, like at the supermarket or at a bar. So really, to me, that is a non-issue, and that's probably more of a controlling personality partner than it is an actual real life issue that you might have to face on the trail. If you do have people in your life that you feel are genuinely concerned and worried, and it comes from a place of total love, and they're not trying to control you with these worries, they're not trying to say, because I feel like this, I'm putting all of that onto you and I'm making you feel guilty for something that you want to do. If they're not doing that, because that's unhealthy, and they're really saying, I love you and I want you to do what makes you happy, but it does make me sit here and worry about you, then there are plenty of compromises to be had around your safety and them just feeling reassured at home. So you can have GPSs that ping your location back to them. Kind of pricey, but you can. Maybe they can buy it for you if they're the people that need the reassurance. You can call them, you can text them, but if you're using that option, you have to say you cannot go into a blind panic if I don't text you by 8 p.m. on a Tuesday when you expect me to text you, because sometimes I just don't have signal. Like sometimes you think you're gonna have signal and you end up in a spot where there's nothing, and it's like the middle of the night or whatever, it's too dark and you just can't find a spot, and you can't ring that person. They have to know that. They cannot start calling like mountain rescue, a police station, sheriff's office, whatever, as soon as they don't hear from you like 1 minute late. You have to create those boundaries because yeah, that's not good either. Okay, so lastly, I feel like it's important to point out that you should be very, very honest with yourself about what you enjoy doing and what your strengths are and what your limitations are. For example, are you able to take situations minute by minute? Are you able to react to situations? Are you able to learn enough skills that you can completely and totally rely on yourself, and you're not, you know, going out there hoping that maybe someone will come along every night, be nearby and hang the bear bag for you, you know, that kind of thing. Like, can you hang the bear bag? Can you pitch the tent? Can you find the campsite? Can you pitch the tent in a gale? Can you pitch the tent in a rainstorm? Do you have the personality type to stay in the wilderness on your own overnight with wild animals creaking around all over the place? Will you be really, really scared? And there's no shame in being really, really scared, because I have to use earplugs to sleep at night because I will just lay there like all night if I let myself. Even if it's a deer, even if it's a rabbit, even if it's a freaking mouse, it sounds like a bear all the time, unless I'm in England and then I know that nothing's going to bother me. But yeah, I just feel I listen and listen and listen. So I stick earplugs in, and you know, people say, well, what if something, and I'm like, well, I'd rather just die ignorant. So yeah, anyway, back to my point. Do you have the personality to deal with it? And is it something that you would actually enjoy? Can you hike in driving rain and wind and snow and your feet wet for 3 days on end and stinking and muddy and musty and all of these things? Is that really for you? I guess maybe, you know, there's no harm in trying it out, and then maybe you'll find out if it isn't for you. That's fine. And some people who least think it's for them, it suits them so much, so it's always worth giving it a go. Another thing is, do you actually enjoy hiking solo? Do you enjoy your own company, or will it bum you out? Yeah, so those are some of the topics that I have come across being discussed. Kind of ask myself, oh my gosh, what could you do? Why would you go out as a woman on your own? It's like, don't judge me by my gender, judge me by how badass I am, which is like mildly. But I'm sure there are mildly badass men as well. Just because they're a man, it doesn't mean that they automatically are like at a higher level, you know, like it's sometimes assumed. But yeah, there's some of the topics that I've kind of come across, and I hope I've sort of discussed them in a way that helps you like tick around in your head about it, or make some decisions, or go back to family members and say, look, I'm a grown-ass woman, she said I was. I can make my own decisions. What I can't speak for is if you've got children at home and how to kind of deal with that dynamic, because I don't have children, so I can't really comment on the kind, you know, family dynamics in that way. I'm also not married, but I like to think that I wouldn't marry someone who would tell me that I can't do things, and I'd like to think that I'd marry someone who understood the things that I love and would respect me and trust in my knowledge as a grown person to make my own decisions. So, and yeah, I kind of don't have kids for that reason, because I like to just get up and go. But yeah, anyone who does have children, I'd be really interested to know how you've navigated that situation when you've been asked by, you know, family members or your boyfriend or partner or husband or whatever, how if you've gone on, you know, weekend or week or very long distance hikes, how you've managed that situation, how you've come to a compromise with your partner. Maybe you have a partner who loves to hike their ass off as well, so they go and hike their ass off for a month or a weekend or a week, and you do the same, and you just, that's the way you manage, and one of you just manages the household while the other one's gone. So let me know, because it's always good to share all of this stuff in the comments, because then I'm getting loads of different perspectives. It's not just coming from me and where I come from in my life. If you have anything to ask me, let me know. If I've missed anything out, let me know. If you want to give me constructive criticism, let me know. But it will really hurt my feelings if you criticize me too much. No, I'm just joking, it's fine. You can go away, go off with yourselves in the comments. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm not sure if people will have reached the end of the video. If you have, well done. Think about subscribing or liking. It's really helpful when you like. It's really helpful when you comment anything at all, actually. And yeah, thank you. Bye.